What's going on, y'all? So we have another reveal here of a PS5 Pro tested patch, and it's Warhammer 40K Darktide. Now we're gonna wonder if PSSR works on this, right? So let's go ahead and get into that. Well, guys, I have some bad news for you. The same issue pops up again. What is this, like over 10 games now? Um, and all I'm doing is reporting results to people just to let you guys know. So if you're on the fence about getting it, what are you getting it for? What game are you getting it for? Does this game have PSSR issues? Can you turn it off and ignore that and just get the upgrade and have it ready for the future for other games that you're looking forward to that might be announced? As you know, the Game Awards came out last night. I enjoyed that, besides some stuff that I think is rigged. And like I said, man, yeah, no thanks. But let's get on this though. So we know Digital Foundry gets busy a lot. They're not able to, upload these videos every day, only focusing on PS5 Pro. They have a lot of other stuff that they have to do in their pipeline. But here we're gonna do some comparisons. Sony fanboys, calm down. Because this is always towards the Sony fanboys. Not people who enjoy the PS5 Pro, they're not fanboys, but you just want to enjoy the system and enjoy games. You're not going to come in and do all that crazy stuff. And y'all know how to listen to reason, right? You see what I'm saying? But so if y'all want to get up on those ponies and come in here and get in your feelings, by all means, please do so. But let's compare this. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna take a look at this. And once again, not worth $700 right now.
By sides
Period.
with that PS5 version in performance mode, though, there's clearly some funny stuff going on in stills. Forgive me if you've heard this before. This is typical PS.
So do we see this fuzzing all right here? That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Like, it's a PSSR issue. It's in every game.
SSR stuff to some degree, but the PSSR image, it looks higher resolution in some sense, like it is resolving into a 4K grid there. It is resolving one-to-one into a 4K grid there, and it is giving you more detail on some fine lines, but it's not really sharper on the whole, I would say, even though it is going to high resolution. It's actually a bit softer often, and that's in part because of this omnipresent shimmer and noise pattern that you see in the PSSR resolve. That's something we see in a lot of games. It actually tends to be worst, at its worst, in very dark content. And lo and behold, Warhammer 40k Darktide is full of dark levels and dark areas. Not too much light there. It's the name, exactly. PSSR is never quite cohering into that stable, good-looking, anti-aliased image that we want to see out of an upscaler at rest there. There are some things it does better, for sure, like the text here looks quite a bit better.
So what you're going to see here is what you would get from actually just making an upgrade on any like hardware, PC, or just anything gaming-wise that you put, together. If I upgraded my GPU right now and a computer, right, in my CPU and RAM, obviously I'm going to get an increase performance and image quality and be able to turn up the settings. So that's automatically on the Pro, but what's the biggest issue with it right now? Well, the PSSR. Because that was one of the biggest selling points, right? So I think that a lot of developers should just switch to TSR or FSR, whatever they want to do, until Sony resolves this issue. There may be some games that it may work on, because you got some guy coming in my comments. He's like, but it works on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where it's like, there's no problems with that game. It's an Unreal Engine 4 game. Unreal Engine 4 is done. You know what I mean? And it's just easy to optimize for that, and it just doesn't have any issues somehow. You can't say because it does on that one little game that this just applies to everything else, which uses different engines, different coding, you know what I mean? And depending on the settings of that game, it's a case-by-case basis. But he's like, what I don't understand is like, when you see all these problems elsewhere, why are you still going back to that mindset without understanding that this is a Sony issue? Why are you bringing up that game? Because it's like, that doesn't matter, because we're seeing all these problems elsewhere. We need to fix the problem to where it works for everything, because people have put TSR over that, like you saw in Silent Hill 2, like you saw in Call of Duty, like you saw in Fortnite, where Epic was like, I'm not going to even use PSSR because I know it's going to have issues. I've seen it elsewhere. We're going to do TSR over that. And TSR with the same settings, same patch, no fuzzy noise. Because the PSSR anti-aliasing, like he was saying, issue creates this white fuzzy noise. You know what I mean? There's some games that may not do that on. And then there's some games where it's just like, yeah, this is just happening. Definitely when it comes to next generation games that are using more up-to-date engines of the next generation. Unreal Engine 4 is last gen. You know what I mean? Just like you see the good upgrade for Celebrate. That's Unreal Engine 4. Let me show you guys something. Because I don't think people understand that. Watch this: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Unreal Engine 4. It's using Unreal Engine 4. So you see that? Stellar, Blade. What engine is it using? Unreal Engine 4. It's easy to develop for. There's not much demand there. And it's not next generation engine. But that doesn't mean that the game itself can be a next gen game, but the engine is still last gen. But does that mean that you can't have games last gen that it don't correct those issues, John? Well, most likely that's possible, but the thing is that that's where you're using a backwards compatibility aspect for. The pro patches is for like next generation games in general, and that's where we're seeing that issue at. That's why I was saying it's a next generation thing. Like people need to realize that. So that was just to give people the answer on that. It's an anti-aliasing issue that Sony specifically has to fix.
But overall, in stills, I kind of prefer the image rendition that we see on the base console there, with whatever their upsampling solution may be there. Obviously not PSSR on the base PS5.
Right.
In motion, I'd say it leans more towards PSSR, though, with the PS5 Pro, because it perhaps has similar aliasing, but it is sharper than their old upscaling solution. That's something you see pretty often with PSSR, where it does tend to resolve more sharply in motion, whether that comes down to treating history a bit differently, maybe not reusing as much data there or whatever. It tends to be quite a bit sharper in motion. But the aliasing presentation is not amazing. They struggle with different kinds of content, like the old anti-aliasing solution really struggles with the holographic display here, for instance, whereas PSSR can't quite get the floor greebles to look right here. It looks kind of shimmery and ugly there. If we flip over to quality mode here, really quickly, PSSR looks quite a bit worse. The quality mode is going from roughly 1440p internal to 4K there, and it looks a lot sharper and cleaner, especially in still shots.
See, this should not be happening. It's it's an upgrade, right? Why is that happening? It should not be making it look that like can't tell a difference or sometimes a little bit worse. You should see a clear difference on everything. That's why I tell people it is still in beta in that aspect because it's not fully integrated. What is there to really argue about then? What are you going to come and defend that? Because that's not looking better. You could clearly see that this looks clear over here. Why though? Well, why is that happening? Like, what's wrong with that AI system, right? Then there's moments where it has that, so it's not functioning 100%, right? You would say this is not fully functioning. So what's going on? This is not fully done. Why did you release this to us, and why did you market this and sell it to us for $6.99 when this was your biggest selling point, right? And then you gave us the 2 TB SSD, which some people say they like that, but it's not for everyone though. That's a double-edged sword because that's enforced. I said I would have rather you gave me a 1 TB hard drive. You can still get that on the side too, right? You see what I mean? I would have rather you gave me a better CPU because I can't go buy that and swap that out. You see, because you can't, right? And the other stuff, you can say, oh, I can go get me another SSD if I want to. Here goes a good sale. I can grab this for this. I can go get me a hard drive right on the side. But giving me a better CPU instead of all this nonsense, yeah, that would have been better because that's something that is needed in the future. One day that's going to come in front of you. You're going to be like, man, I wish I had that extra CPU power. And you're only thinking about right now. Remember when the PS5, when the PS6 comes out, there's going to be some people that are still holding on to that PS5 Pro. And you're going to want that extra CPU power, but you're not going to have it like you should have. Not to say that it still won't function, okay, it still will, but you guys kind of get what I'm saying. Like, when it's like, if you're supposed to be intelligent and lead, you should have probably thought better about that rather than, you know, enforcing stuff so that you could sell it for $6.99 because it's just not friendly for a console price. And then they came out with a statement the other day saying it's just for hardcore enthusiasts. Hold on right here. PS5 Pro, Sony says it's for hardcore. Or they said something stupid. Let's find it. It's going to be hard to find that. Let's see what Sony said. Yeah, they released something the other day. Yeah, Sony says there's no major risk of players choosing PC gaming or PS5, even though PS5 Pro is $700 and the base console gets a price hike in some regions. According to Sony, there's no risk. They also said something else. Sony reveals that the transition of players from PS4 to PS5 is trending well, but it doesn't see a major risk of losing users to PC. But there's more in that article that was talking about them saying exactly what I just said. And like, you see, even after everything that's happened, they didn't come out saying, we're sorry PSR doesn't work. Where's it at? They haven't even said that. You don't know why? Because they don't care. You're still gonna buy it and eat it up. That's the way they look at you. So I'm trying to help you guys see and tell them sometimes to just do this. You know what I mean? Because it's like, wait, you're not going to address that issue? This is what you have to say? We're not worried about losing anything to PC players. We're not worried about that. It's okay at $700. We don't agree with you. It's still going to be $700 and it's okay. That's what they're saying, right? They have not said anything about any of these PSSR issues. They don't care. Why should you?
It's not too close at all there. It just looks like a pretty stable and sharp and good-looking 4K image. PSSR is not really giving you that in this title, I would say. Performance-wise, it's not too amazing, but it's not too bad either. It's basically a slightly wobbly 60 FPS. The worst I saw was about 40 FPS there. It's usually running at 60 FPS or a little bit short of it in more busy scenes and more heavy melees in particular. That's when I saw the frame rate start to tumble down into like the 50 FPS region at times. It's basically similar enough to Xbox last year, maybe a little bit worse. I tested PS5 in performance mode, and I did see some frame rate drops there. They didn't seem quite as...
So he said the Series X version is better than the PS5 Pro version at the moment. I wouldn't never thought that was possible, right?
impactful though, but it's tough because this is an online game and there are so many factors outside of player control, and I didn't have hours and hours to test exhaustively, so all I'll say is that there are some frame rate drops here. So overall, it's not the worst PS5 Pro patch I've seen. I'm glad they've cleaned up their TAA in particular on that base console machine. It looks a lot better than the Xbox versions did at the point that I tested them last year. But PS5 Pro isn't necessarily the kind of upgrade that we'd want to see over PS5 here. I'm not necessarily sure which platform I would prefer in terms of that 60 FPS visual experience, the PS5 Pro in its sole visual mode, or the PS5 in its performance mode. Ultimately, I do suspect quite strongly that it would have been a better option if they'd gone with their old AA solution, their old upsampling solution, deployed the additional GPU power of the PS5 Pro towards a higher internal resolution and possibly maybe a higher output resolution, who knows? Because the fact that we're getting pretty comparable results with an image that is pushing a lot more pixels on the PS5 Pro does suggest to me that perhaps that old solution worked a little bit better for this game and its content there. So yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? For that game, that's why I tell you guys, when it comes to PSSR, you're taking a gamble right now with everything. It's like you're rolling the dice. Let me see what happens. Oh man, that fuzz is there. Oh, okay. We didn't see it here on this one game, but oh man, it's here, it's here, it's here. Okay, I don't see it here. Just for people that kind of want an answer. You're taking a gamble and it's not guaranteed. If somebody gave me a system, I say, man, I want this to work. Does this work or does this not work? If it's not finished, go finish your damn system. Say I'm launching a PS5 Pro, and if I was Sony and I care about my customers and I care about my base, like, look, guys, I know I advertised PSSR to you. Like, come out and say something. It's been a fucking month plus. You haven't said anything. You see what I'm saying? Like, so if you're supposed to love this company and you're supposed to want to defend them, definitely the PONYS that come in here, right? Right, I have to say this because you're just being dumb. What are they showing you by not saying anything, right? Because when you have more integrity, right, I think when you're less of a coward too, you would say something immediately and address it instantly, right? You would have some type of like moral goodness in you and say, oh, you know, we're sorry. We see that there's PSSR issues right now. We're working on this right now. We need to do something to fix this. I apologize to our base that we advertised this and we put this at $6.99, you know, all that type of stuff. And we're going to like do something, but there's nothing. Except this bullshit right here. Sony says there's no major risk of players choosing PC gaming over PS5, even the PS5 Pro $700 and the base console got a price hike in some other regions. Japan is like almost $800, and you don't even have a disc drive. And I see some regions say, man, they got to pay $1,200 or whatever for this shit. Imagine if you want to get a TV for it, if you needed to use that VRR and get that 120 hertz, and you talking about gaming PCs are too expensive. Come on, man. At least you know what you're getting. I mean, this is just bullshit if you ask me. And like I said, I'm intense on it. You're going to see a lot of videos going against it because I'm going against the grain of Sony because it's the right thing to do. If you don't do this, guys, then you're just a okay little consumer, a little incorporated monster. And you're just going to support them with your wallet and say all of this is okay and nothing's going to get that much better. And they'll fix it whenever they feel like it. And you're going to eat it all up. I'm doing the right thing here. Trust me.
Not super happy with it, but it's not a really bad patch necessarily, but it's also not the kind of upgrade that I think people are probably expecting for a title like this.
Yeah. And you
Tom,
got to
where do
sit
you
there and
stand on the
wait.
whole PlayStation 5 Pro thing at the
But they
moment?
got your money.
Because I'll tell you where I am. I
Yeah.
think
Even if you do have a lot of money, that's not the point. This is about principalities here. This is about principles here. This is about whether you're screwing me over or getting me or not, right? Think about it. If you made a deal with someone and they say, oh, he's ripping you out by $200 and you got a lot of money, does that mean that that's right? No. It's not about whether you have a lot of money or not, right? And there's some people that don't.
that there's been some reaction to some of the more poorly implemented or poor results we're seeing from PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution (PSSR), and there's basically been calls to have an option on the dashboard of the Pro that basically says don't use the Pro code, use the base PS5 code, and allow Game Boost to take over.
Damn.
I think my take on this is that you can't really do that. I think it would be a short-term solution, and it's not a good look for Sony. But I do think that there is certainly a good argument for maybe having options within game to turn on or off PSSR. Where do you sit on it?
I think that's the only way forward, really, for in the short term at least, as they, sort of file off the rough edges on the whole PSSR situation, which is clearly, a situation for that is a bit awkward, to be honest, because the first wave of games that have come out for PS5 Pro, we've had a couple of articles and videos in a row where it's been like PSSR is in the headline. And we don't really want it to be, but it's impossible to ignore that as a downside in some cases. Notably third-party titles, and notably Unreal Engine 5 games with Lumen, for example, seem to be suffering as well. Call of Duty, as we've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of I think for a £700 console, imagine the disappointment, when you get this thing in and you're pretty much forced. And in a lot of cases, I imagine people will be selling their base PS5 to fund that move. And then there's no way back. And they're stuck with, a less appealing image. Yeah, having that option to go back within the game code, to just see how it would be played on the base PS5 using that rendering setup would be a huge benefit. I wish we had that in Silent Hill 2. Remake. We tried the disc-based version, didn't we, with that to access that original PS5 code, but then that's another £100 cost you've got to find to get the disc drive. So,
yeah, that's a bit extreme. I think ultimately the developers need to curate a good experience for PlayStation 5 Pro, but it's just been interesting to me to see that Sony developers have actually included toggles for PSSR on off.
Sure.
Which kind of is indicative, I think. And I think it's a practice that can go elsewhere as well. Why not have third-party developers do it? It's clearly not a cure-all, I think, is the bottom line there. Well, obviously there is discussions about how the PSSR situation can be improved, Oliver. There's people are calling for the like the DLL swap out on PC, where you could actually add in a better version of DLSS by swapping the DLL. You can't do that on consoles, but there have been suggestions that Sony might actually swap in more improved versions of PSSR at the system level. My take on that is, I don't know. I think there needs to be a way for developers to more easily integrate those better versions of PSSR. But to actually take that out of the developer's hands could have unwanted side effects for certain games.
He's right. See, this is the problem now. Now they're going to probably need outside help. That's why I was telling people that when you think about what Sony's trying to do here, it's not easy as they probably think it is now. Now they're looking at this, they're probably scratching their heads like, shit, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And you can tell they didn't test it like they should have, because this wouldn't be happening. You do that when you care more. Then you invite other people and say, man, we need help. But their arrogance, look at where it's leading them. Right? You see what I mean? So I love these guys. They're awesome. All they're doing is helping everyone. They get up every day. They deserve everything they get. And you look at their other main page, they almost got 1.5 million. And this is their clips page. And they helped me understand some things more too. I really like these dudes, man. They do a lot of good things for the gaming industry. They help you understand your product a lot and what's going on. And I'm trying to do the same thing to help people out. So Yeah, it's just kind of a shame.
I mean, what is the way forward on this? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of PSSR games that are just great.
Hmm.
It's some really good implementations out there.
Yeah,
But then, we're seeing, I'd say this is kind of a more average implementation. It's not great, but, it is what it is. And then there's the outright shockers like Jedi Survivor and the original version of Silent Hill. What do you think is the way that this is to be addressed? Should Sony step in?
Oh boy, that's a big question.
yeah.
It's a big
It's a big
question.
question.
They kind of have to in a way.
I think one thing that does work for me personally is offering the old modes as a safety valve.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Right.
I mean, safety valve, maybe that's being pushing it a little bit too far, but you see this a little bit in The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2, where you get the old modes and you get to run them with the greater GPU resources, and you get to enjoy them at higher frame rates with VRR unlocking them. And in that case, they kind of balance the fact that they're giving you these old modes with the fact that they want you to use the new Pro mode, which is generally a good mode and a superior option in most instances, I would say, relative to those old modes. They balance that reality by basically prompting you every time you boot the game without the Pro mode enabled, saying, hey, we prepared this special mode for you, wouldn't you like to try it? And I think that's a good way to go about it, in my opinion. I think the route of providing players a lot of different modes with a lot of different configurations of PSSR, a lot of different ways to play, that is maybe not my preferred way to go. I kind of like the route with the old modes because at least then you're giving players a kind of base from which to work from, and
That's
you
an
are at
intelligent
least saying,
decision.
if we do happen to mess up these new modes, we're giving you an option to play with the old modes, and those are kind of known good quantities for a lot of titles, right? For older titles, those are known good quantities there. But ultimately, I mean, my preferred solution here would be that games are just set up quite well for PSSR, and that we leave everything up to developer discretion. That'd be kind of my preferred model. But at the moment, I'm not quite sure why. I do think a lot of these issues are probably being caught by QA. It's fairly trivial to pull up the two consoles, the two dev kits on two different monitors and compare them. So I have to imagine a lot of these problems are being caught. I kind of wonder if maybe there's some political element to this where it's like, well, we want to integrate the new feature from Sony on our new PlayStation 5 Pro version, and that will be a good way to get eyeballs on our game, and that will be a good way to achieve our goals with this title, even if it doesn't necessarily achieve the best visual result. Again, I'm only speculating here because it is unusual.
No. That's what they're doing.
Come through with lackluster, or even in a couple of rare cases, worse than PS5 PSSR implementations. That's certainly quite concerning.
It's funny he says that. No, guys, that's what he said is actually very true because back then they had a PlayStation 5 Pro patch deadline in October. I don't know if they're still going to show this. It's kind of information. There's no official deadline for PS5 Pro patch. No, Sony did release that. Bullshit. An update will be before November 21st or earlier if accommodated practice, though, because round 4 or something like that. I would have to find this. I don't want to waste the rest of the stream trying to do this, but Sony said that there has to be some type of protocol that needs to be a pro patch for all games. Yeah, we'll have to look at that on the side, but you guys can look into that too. We're not going to get too into that. But what he's saying, though, is to look at a solution right now, I think is actually very smart, that allow them to have like another mode to where it's not just a pro patch that you're forced on with that shimmering issue, but to say, can I just take off PSSR and just have the pro upgrade as like the GPU in there and a little bit of extra memory and a little bit of extra speed, whatever I get, until you fix the PSSR issue. And if that runs better, I'll turn that on later. I just think in general, they should just allow us to have more PC settings like PC has. So you can just turn stuff on and off, and it'll be kind of close to a PC because it basically is an AMD PC, and you'd be able to toggle on and off whatever the hell you want. And you get the driver updates. What the hell's wrong with that? So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think. This is actually a really good video because we actually talked about some more stuff in an open mindset. And we're just going to keep this up, and I'll let you guys know if something else is having issues so we could see, just in case if people are wondering if they want an upgrade and there's games that they care about. That's why I'm also covering that too. There's so many reasons to do this. Trust me, it's good. Because people are lazy and I'm not. So all right, y'all. Peace out. Enjoy your PS5 Pro if you have it and you have no issues. Great. All right, y'all. Peace.